pathway to a zero net emissions economy, and that's education. My background is I graduated in 1987 with a Bachelor of Education and Environmental Studies. It was the year that the Brundtland Commission put out the first report on sustainable development and defined it. And I thought the eloquence of the definition of sustainable development that meets the needs of the present without compromising future generations to meet their own needs was an inspirational hook to build my career around. And my first job that I took was as a teacher in the southwest of Melbourne, which it was in a fairly socio-economically challenged school called Keysborough Technical College, which was an all-boys school that used to fight every lunchtime with the gangs around the area. And my first class in Year 10 Science was teaching the greenhouse effect. So I put up the overhead projector and I put my nice little map of the heat trapping and the gas coming down from the sky. And I got a chorus of discontent from the boys in the class saying, what's this got to do with us? When are we ever going to use this? This has got nothing to do with us. Fast forward to 2001 and I was working as a sustainability advisor for a major bank in Australia. And my job was to interview the top 100 executives of the bank to identify what does this thing sustainability mean for us as a major bank. And in almost every meeting that I had across all the different functions of the bank, that same question kept coming up. What's this got to do with us? We're a bank. And it kind of frustrated me to a point where after a month I thought, why aren't these very smart people in this big successful organisation getting this? And I went into the HR records, and at the time there were 37,000 people working at this bank, and only 2 out of the 37,000 had an environmental degree. And the penny dropped, and I thought, you know, these are actuaries and accountants and economists, and you know, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I realised that I was speaking the language of environment, and I wasn't speaking the language of economics and finance and business. And so I thought, what I need to be able to do to influence and educate is to actually learn their language, and that set off a bit of a journey, because I think where we've got to today, if we fast forward again, we've got the issues of climate change, sustainability and sustainable development environment have moved very much from the periphery of business thinking to the core of business strategy, of finance, of governance. And I think that what we're starting to see is that there is a deepening of a recognition that these issues are central to how business needs to perform and survive and be successful. But lurking behind that development is still, I think, in a lot of the engagement I have, is that question, but what has this really got to do with us? So I think there's a challenge here for us who sort of come from, you know, in my story, an environmental background. And environment's my mother tongue, I speak it fluently. But to actually continue to invest in learning how to communicate with business and finance and technology and markets and policy, and to try and be fluent in those languages, because unless I think we are collectively being more innovative in how we can fast track the capacity building of the organisations that can really contribute, the banks and the businesses and the civil society organisations, and bring them together around a common language, I'm not sure we're going to be able to accelerate the pathway to a zero net emissions economy. And having said that, I think what I am starting to see, even in a place like Australia, there is some traction gaining, that businesses are starting to understand and speak the different languages internally. It's led by people like Mr. Polman and Mr. Mahendra, who have organisations that have been able to make the business case for carbon pricing, that have been able to communicate the challenge of the opportunity and define the risk. And so as we move towards this next phase, where I hope that the greater engagement of business and finance in the challenge to address the big goals of sustainable development, we're going to hopefully start seeing more of those executives who are going to be the people who will do their own education internally, who will be the ones who will lead and motivate and inspire and guide others within their organisations, so we can accelerate the uptake and the capacity building to achieve the transition that we're looking for. Thank you.
Now, Peter, let's hear from the Indigenous community. Emmy, please.
Excellencies, dignitaries, distinguished colleagues, Ayakui, my name is Amy Cordalis. I am a member of the Yurok tribe. I'm also the tribe's general counsel. It's a great pleasure and honor to be here today. The Yurok tribe is the largest tribe in California. Our Aboriginal territory is just about 6 hours north of where we are here. Governor Brown spoke of the original inhabitants of this area.